She's your baby. She look just like you. That's common sense. The father.
Go pop the popcorn.
With his estranged wife running off and leaving him to care for 2 little boys, Mr. Mitchell was rightfully mad. Oh, and to add insult to injury, Miss Dalton, the wife in question, openly admitted to cheating on Mr. Mitchell in the past, putting her 2 kids' paternity into question. Get ready, it's about to be a messy one.
Miss Dalton put me and my kids through a lot, Your Honor. You know, she done left, and between the last 7, 8, 9 months, you know, she done made us struggle. She done walked out on us, Your Honor. So.
Well, we don't see this every day, do we? Talk about role reversal. According to the plaintiff, Mr. Mitchell, Miss Dalton had been the textbook definition of a deadbeat parent. He claimed that despite being the mom to their 2 kids, Miss Dalton had developed a nasty habit of leaving him with the kids and disappearing with other guys for weeks on end.
She left with another man. She just came home one day, Your Honor, and just said, you know, here go your kids, take the kids, take the food stamp card, and just walked out and just left.
But wait! As we know, there are always 2 sides to every story, so what did Miss Dalton have to say about all of this? She was insanely stoic as Mr. Mitchell gave his opening testimony.
He went away for some time, and like I said, from the beginning, I've been doing everything by myself. He wasn't working. There was constant, like I worked 2 jobs in the beginning when I was pregnant with my first son. I worked 2 jobs to make sure that the household was taken care of. He didn't work, he gambled. You know,
And that's why it's never a good idea to take one side over another before you hear the full story in cases like this. So according to Miss Dalton, Mr. Mitchell was not the model dad that he had painted himself out to be in the beginning. Shocker! But what did she have to say about the allegations of her disappearing on her family?
And that happened, and
That's
you
what
know,
she did.
I was forced to leave my home.
Nobody forced her to leave. When she left me, Your Honor, and left the kids and walked out, Your Honor, I was on our city bus in the freezing cold with my 2 kids.
I did the
going
same.
to all my kids' their appointments they had to go to. I was making sure that me and my kids had what we needed, Your Honor, because I didn't have anything.
And so listen.
Hold up! This is getting interesting. With Miss Dalton seemingly sprinting at the slightest inconvenience and Mr. Mitchell trying to get sympathy points for doing his job, things look more complicated than they first appeared. Apparently, none of the 2 parents have exactly been saints.
Time you all were together, you were in your relationship, did you sleep with another man?
In the beginning, yes. But since we've been married, no.
She was just with a...
Hey! With the plot thickening by the second, we're losing track of one major allegation against the defendant. Judge, would you do the honors?
With a man
During
that
the
was sitting
time
over there
you
with her
all were
every day.
together, you were in your relationship, did you sleep with another man?
In the beginning, yes. But since we've been married, no.
Okay, Miss Dalton, we hear you. But do we believe you? Mr. Mitchell clearly doesn't. As for us, well, that's still up in the air. And just like clockwork, Mr. Mitchell drops another bombshell. Apparently, Miss Dalton is a bit of a party freak. She denies that, but almost immediately something huge comes up.
In the court papers that you are 37.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Dalton is 21.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
2 years.
2 years.
So you got married when you were 19?
Correct.
Whoa, that was a close one. Still questionable, of course, but legal nonetheless. With an age gap that big, there's bound to be a few misunderstandings here and there, but random disappearances and questions surrounding paternity? No, there's definitely something deeper going on here. So back to the main event. Why exactly does Mr. Mitchell doubt being the father to both children?
Cheating that she's constantly been doing, Your Honor. It's been 3, maybe 4 guys that she done cheated on me with. Probably 3 since we've been married.
And then after...
Jeez, Miss Dalton has been a busy bee. But hey, we still don't know if all those allegations are proof that the kids aren't Mr. Mitchell's. All this drama is really getting to Miss Dalton. As the notion of her being the villain in this story gets stronger, she can't hold back the tears anymore.
The whole time they've been on this earth living, he didn't work. He didn't contribute a dime to our household as far as anything with the
Yes, I did,
kids,
Your
food.
Honor. Yes,
Your
I
Honor,
did,
he
Your
did
Honor.
not.
Your
He
Honor,
did not, Your Honor. I worked 2 jobs to make sure that they were taken care of.
Your Honor.
And so are you saying, Miss Dalton, that while he was gone, you handled it all, So
Even
while
when
you're
he
not
was
in the home,
present,
you
Your Honor.
expect him to handle it all?
What I'm saying is he want to sit here and throw in my face what you did.
No,
I
no.
mean, you done it for 7
Your Hon-
months.
Your Honor.
And half of the time, you act like you were doing it on your own. Your family was helping. I didn't
Your
have
Honor,
that
my
kind of
family
help.
was
but
not
Miss-
helping you.
The courtroom was steaming after all that drama. Emotions were high, tempers were flared, and surprise, surprise, the results were in. It's a double DNA test, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Mr. Mitchell loves his 2 kids, and if any one or both of them are revealed not to be his, who knows what'll happen? Let's get some answers.
In the case of Mitchell versus Dalton, pertaining to 1-year-old Bishop Mitchell, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Mitchell, you are Bishop's father. 2-year-old Deshaun Mitchell Jr. It has been determined by this court, Mr. Mitchell, you are Deshaun's father.
Okay, guys, this one's a doozy. Mr. Hammond was fuming after the defendant, Miss James, sued him for child support out of nowhere. The thing is, he's 100% sure that the child isn't his. But spoiler alert! There's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. Strap in, because this one's about to be a roller coaster.
For a couple years, I moved away for like 4, and during that time, I had a relationship with Miss Kiera. So, me and her was kind of rocky at the time. That's when I reconnected with Miss James.
So you were doing a back and forth, but at some point ended up dating both of these women at the same time.
Like I said,
Like I said.
both of them knew.
Things are getting spicy. And yep, you heard that right. Mr. Hammond was rolling for doubles. With his current girlfriend Kiara sitting right next to him, things couldn't get more awkward than that, right? Well, guess again.
He's keeping her under, he didn't want her to know because he was just getting money from her.
Yeah, that's what I told her.
He said that's how he got his truck,
That's what
his
I told
Tahoe,
her
he got-
because, like I said, I was back and forth. This is my girl. Just like you got your baby daddy.
He's a liar, though.
That's it. She got a dude,
He lied about
and
everything.
I had a woman. So we
he
just
lied
gonna
about
keep it
everything.
100 just
he said,
like that.
He said.
Oh, so the
whatever.
point, is it your position, Mr. Hammond, that both women were aware that you were sleeping with them at the same exact time and they were comfortable with that?
Kiera wasn't
Keep
aware.
it 100, as you would say.
100. Kiera wasn't aware. She was.
I was aware?
You feel me?
Okay.
So what you're saying is Miss James bought into the arrangement.
Right.
So Miss James, is that your...
Actually, when he told me he was going to get money from her, I said, go ahead. I'm not going to give you my money. You need to find a job or something. I'm not going to take care of a grown man.
Right.
And she could do it. I'm not going to do it.
But you were still having sex with him.
We were. He
And
was
so
always
at-
at my house.
He was always at your house.
He was.
So right before Naija was conceived, you all weren't in a real relationship.
No.
But you were having sex.
Right. At that time, she got pregnant in March. So
Who did?
she has a baby by him already. I got pregnant in August. She got pregnant in March.
You were both pregnant at the same time.
Right.
While this young woman was...
Wow! So apparently Mr. Hammond's favorite number is 2. Who would have thought? Getting 2 women pregnant at the same time is wild. But hey, Mr. Hammond embraces his wild side. What do you say to that, Mr. Hammond?
Yeah, of course. That's what I said. Well, we all know that.
Okay, this is escalating way too quickly. An unapologetic Mr. Hammond is standing right in the middle of his current and former girlfriends as all the tea gets spilled. But as Miss James is giving her testimony, Mr. Hammond is busy trying to slap some duct tape on his and Kiara's current relationship.
Stop whispering things over to your girlfriend. Let's stay on topic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, we on it.
Okay, let's be on...
Sorry, Mr. Hammond. You should have brought her a pair of earmuffs instead, because you're definitely sleeping in the doghouse after Kiara hears what Miss James has to say. Things were heating up, and somebody was going to get burnt. So when Miss James continued giving her testimony, boy, oh boy, did things take a crazy turn.
I actually texted him, and then a family member called me and was like, are you sure, that's his baby? And I was like, no, I'm not sure, because I honestly had sex with another man earlier that day.
earlier than what?
That day, and he knew it.
Jaws were dropping at this point. Apparently, Miss James was pretty busy too. Sleeping with 2 men around the time of conception? How in the world does she know who the real father is? But hey, it was her birthday. Not sure if that makes any difference though.
6, in the morning you have sex with another man.
Right.
And then by 5 o'clock you're having sex with Mr. Hammond?
This is the story that just keeps on giving. Right when we thought things were at peak crazy, Miss James said, "Hold my beer." But Mr. Hammond wasn't going to be one-up D by his ex. So right on cue, he drops yet another absolute bomb in the courthouse. Talk about a messy situation.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Since when?
since when?
Last year.
What kind of engagement is this? I'd like to hear from your fiance, ma'am. Please stand up.
The judge finally calls Mr. Hammond's current girlfriend, Kira, to the stand. She's been sitting right next to her insanely scandalous boyfriend as we got to hear one of the wildest cases of all time, and she definitely has something to say about all of it. As we've come to expect from this wild case, we're in for some top-tier drama.
His fiance?
Yes.
You tell me what kind of engagement this is.
Well, first off, she's always known about me. She's the one who texted me every single time that he supposedly talked to her.
And you are comfortable with just 3 months
I am
before.
not comfortable with what is going on, and he knows that.
Do you feel like it's going to end?
Hopefully. I'm pretty certain that he is not messing with her anymore.
It's almost...
So apparently, Kira has known about her boyfriend and Miss James's relationship for quite some time. What she didn't know is that Mr. Hammond and Miss James have been going at it even after he had proposed to her. Talk about a curveball!
I know that.
You just found this out sitting in this witness chair?
Oh, yeah.
It's not funny.
It's not.
It is. He calls me when...
Okay, so he calls you...
Things were getting insane! This dramatic throuple nearly had the judge tapping out. In just a few minutes, Mr. Hammond had created more drama than a soap opera writer.
Jerome,
How did you
Jerome,
know?
go pop the popcorn.
Please, I want to know too.
Go ahead. What else? What else?
I had to think that one.
What else?
It's a mess.
So with the case at its climax, nothing seemed to have been resolved. Mr. Hammond and Miss James clearly still had unhealthy feelings for each other and possibly a child together. And Kira was in the middle of a toxic relationship between her boyfriend and his ex. But with the judge having had more than her fair share of drama for one day, she decided to bring it all to a close. So drum roll, please. The results are in.
Of Hammond versus James. When it comes to 5-month-old Nyasia James, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Hammond, you are not the father.
This next case went from 0, 100 real quick. Mr. James III had always been a dad to his 19-year-old son, James IV, but a single revelation by his wife nearly 2 decades ago had always been at the back of his mind. The fact that he wasn't his son's biological father.
She knew my past, and she knew that once she told me that she was pregnant, that I wanted a father in my son's life, like I didn't have a father in my life. So once she told me that, we got married in December of '95, a few months after she got pregnant, and come up a year into the marriage, and I find out that he may not be my child, Your Honor.
And so you stepped up to the plate and married her?
Yes, ma'am, 2 months after she told me.
You go to the doctor's appointments. You were there when James Jackson IV was born. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You obviously gave him your name.
I gave him my name.
So Pops and Ma Jackson had a hell of a past. They had the hots for each other back in college, and you know how that story goes. Along came Jackson went 4, which prompted the 2 lovebirds to get married. But just 1 year into their marriage, Mr. Jackson got hit with a wrecking ball.
The only time that she could have got pregnant was those 3 days out of August.
Talk to me about those days.
Okay, August '95, 11th, 12th, and 13th is the only 3 days she could have got pregnant.
In August of 1995, it'd be the 11th, 12th, and 13th.
That's correct. Okay, from
That's
after we got married.
sex with Jackson. Okay.
And my son is born on June 8th, 1996.
June 8th. All right, why are you doubtful about these
Because
dates?
unless he's not my son, or you're looking at the only woman that's been pregnant 10 and a half months in history,
So
that
you're
dates just
saying-
don't add up. From August 11th, 12th, and 13th to June 8th
Your Honor.
is 10 and a half months.
So you feel like the dates are not adding up?
Your Honor.
Because that means, in your mind, you cannot be the father because that's too many weeks.
That's too many weeks, months, days, years.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Really, I think Mr. Jackson got upset because I told him we did the math and he thought he was gonna have his son being born around his birthday. His birthday, May the 7th.
It actually
So
supposed to
according
be
to
born on May the
calendar,
7th.
What he's saying, Ms. Jackson, is that if he counts back, it's over 10 months' time that you were pregnant, which we know pregnancies are usually 40 weeks.
And Your Honor, excuse me, but they induced her labor, so that wasn't the due date. They induced
Honor.
her labor. She made them take the baby. 2 doctors and 1 midwife told me that that couldn't be the conception date, period.
Now that's interesting. Being pregnant for 10 months is questionable, to say the least. But let's take a few steps back because the story of how Miss Jackson got pregnant is straight out of a coming-of-age movie.
So we both took nursing classes together. The first time we had sex was in the Green Grass Motel.
What is that exactly?
When we was on the campus, we couldn't have sex in our dorms because it was separate dorm rooms. So we had to wait till nighttime to go out in the field and have sex on the Green Grass Hotel.
Oh, you called that the grass? Oh,
The grass.
got it.
Yes.
Wow! They did a lot more than touch grasses that day. Nature is funny sometimes. Anyway, fast forward to the courtroom, where Mr. Jackson was suing Mrs. Jackson for $5,000 in emotional distress for tricking him into believing that Jackson LaForie was his son. On top of that, Mrs. Jackson had also refused to sign divorce papers presented to her by Mr. Jackson. But why would she do that?
Do you admit that there is a slight reason to doubt? What percentage do you?
80-20, Your Honor. It was just because
80-20?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
80% maybe the other guy kind of told and he's kind of light-skinned.
Wait a minute, 80-20, who's the 80?
The other guy. But we use protection, Your Honor.
Now, what you just saw was a rare case of something that is scientifically known as shooting yourself in the foot. Mrs. Jackson just admitted to cheating on Mr. Jackson back in the day, and to the fact that there was an 80% chance that someone else could be Jackson Wentfie's father.
We were partying, we got up, and it was the next day, and we was out there at the beach, and then it was like...
Don't tell me anything
Please.
else. I don't want to know anything
This is the first
else.
time I'm hearing this, Your Honor.
Except...
This is the very first time.
Wow, just wow! Where do we go from here? Mrs. Jackson was already lighting up the entire courtroom with her stories and attitude. You honestly wouldn't tell that she was the defendant. So when the judge asked Mr. Jackson what Mrs. Jackson said that made him doubt being Jackson Wentfie's father, his answer was everything you would hope for and more.
To you that this was not your son. Did she ever give you any indication? Did she say that?
As we drinking again, Your Honor, she tells me in the hotel that I wasn't the father. I possibly could be the father one time, and it kind of messed me up to then.
Your Honor.
So let's get things straight. Back in the 90s, Mr. Jackson got Mrs. Jackson drunk so he could get the truth out of her? Well, things are heating up in here for sure. If you thought that was exciting, wait until you hear Mrs. Jackson's side of the same story. And no, she didn't just give her 2 cents, she broke the bank with her testimony.
Was drinking all the
Did
time
you ever
either.
tell him that James Jackson IV was not his son?
He got me drunk at the house and trying to get the truth out of me, Your Honor. So I
Yes,
I
it's
was
So
drunk.
did
I didn't
he
know
get
whether
the truth out of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and did we mention that their son, Jackin 4, was on the stand too? Yup, he was right next to his mom the whole time. Imagine listening to your parents describe not just your conception, but a bunch of other times that they got intimate. And not to mention the fact that his dad might not be his biological father. That's a lot for anyone to go through. So when he gave his testimony, everybody had their eyes peeled.
I was asleep. I overheard them arguing. I climbed downstairs, sneaking up on the argument, and I overheard that he possibly couldn't have been my father. I was 5 years old at the time.
Everyone having given their testimonies, the case was at a cliffhanger. The stakes were super high, and the truth was all that the Jackson family needed to hear. So without further hesitation, Judge Lake put a stop to all the drama, and the moment of truth had arrived. Was Jackson of 4 really Mr. Jackson's son?
19-year-old James Jackson IV. It has been determined by this court. Mr. Jackson, you are his father.
Nobody loves a deadbeat dad. And Mr. Williams definitely didn't like being labeled as one. So he accused Ms. Smith, an old flame, of supposedly scamming him into paying child support for her 22-year-old daughter, Clarissa. You heard that right, 22 years of doubt. So grab your popcorn and sit back as we dive into some drama that has been brewing for decades.
So, Mr. Williams, why do you believe Ms. Smith has been scamming you all these years?
The scam is child support. You file child support against me when you don't have proof. I have never signed a birth certificate. I've never been proven that I was the father of the child.
Were you having a sexual relationship with Ms. Smith during the time the child was conceived?
I don't know.
You don't even know?
I don't know, because we've seen each other.
Before we dive any deeper, it's probably worth mentioning how much money Mr. Williams owes in child support arrears. And trust us, you'll want to sit down for this one. Over $36,000. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Mr. Williams hadn't seen his alleged daughter Clarissa in over 20 years.
I gave her a window of opportunity to put me on child support.
Now, so far, we've learned that Mr. Williams either really loves big numbers or he really hates taking care of his kids. But if the child isn't his, he hasn't really done anything wrong, has he? We got some clarity right afterward, because as soon as Ms. Smith started talking, the plot thickened in seconds.
Eli, he never had a job.
That's what
I paid for everything.
No, that's not true.
Eli had money when he got into a car accident.
Oh, my goodness, that's not true.
We had a relationship.
That's not true. We did not have a relationship.
Yes, we did.
We did not have a relationship.
Yes, we did.
No.
You told him when you got pregnant?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were intimate with him during the window of time that Clarissa was conceived?
I don't see that. I don't see
What was the nature of the relationship? How did you guys meet?
We met at a club. Yes, we met at a club.
So apparently Ms. Smith was taking care of Mr. Williams when he was broke. Before she started taking care of her daughter Clarissa. Who would have thought? According to her opening statement, Mr. Williams also had a habit of making things accidentally. His money, his daughter, and who knows what else. She also mentioned something else. They met at the club. And we all know how unpredictable those relationships are.
Realized you were pregnant. Before that, were you sleeping with anybody else besides Mr. Williams?
No.
When you found out you were pregnant, did you tell him?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What day?
What was his reaction?
The same night.
What day? What night?
Yep.
What night?
Yes, I did.
What was his reaction?
Goodness. Yeah, what was my reaction?
I forgot the name he wanted.
Did I say hell?
I forgot the name that he wanted me to name, but he wanted me to have a boy.
What?
He did.
He seemed happy about it.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
But sir, you don't remember this day.
Like that.
I do not remember this whole conversation, what she's talking about, because it never happened.
Okay.
It didn't.
Well, go ahead.
You know it didn't.
Go ahead.
So is it safe to say that during the doctor's visits and the birth, Mr. Williams was not there?
No. Even when she was sick in the hospital, he ain't showed up, but he called. And I told him Clarissa was sick for 14 days and 14 nights.
None of this.
And his dad was on the other line because his dad was gonna pay for the ticket. And I said, yeah, you need to come down here to see Clarissa. They know he never showed up, but he came down here plenty of times after.
From what we've heard, one of two things has to be true. Mr. Williams either has a pretty nasty case of self-induced amnesia, or Miss Smith is lying with a straight face in court. Forgetting the fact that your significant other just told you they were pregnant is wild, but forgetting that you were the one coming up with ideas for names? Like, is he trying to reenact Memento?
situation.
No, I come to get your address so I can send them people the letter.
You sent them to the wrong address because that was the address you was at.
No, I didn't. I sent it to your father's house.
Right. What you did is you had somebody send some service papers to my family's house where you know I wasn't at, and then you know I wasn't there. So when they went there, I didn't get the paperwork, I didn't make the court date.
Yes,
you just smashed me. You just smashed me. She sent the court reporter, whoever serves papers, to my parents' home.
To the wrong address.
To the wrong address, knowing I ain't there.
You're saying she purposely gave the wrong address.
Yes.
So that you would then miss the court date.
Yes.
And be named the father by default.
Yes.
And then once you were named the father by default, you were put on child support.
Wasn't nothing I could do. Nothing.
With all the heat in the courtroom, how does everyone still have their coats on? Mr. Williams went on a rant, talking about how Ms. Smith practically tricked him into paying child support. According to Mr. Williams, Ms. Smith purposefully sent the court papers to the wrong address so Mr. Williams could miss his hearing and have to pay child support by default. That's a pretty sly plan, but is it true?
We ain't never used no condoms, Eli.
What did you used to do with them?
Oh my God. This is I'll tell you. Why are you doing this?
You never used condoms.
So Mr. Williams' defense didn't really go anywhere, but he had another ace up his sleeve. He claimed that all his life he had always used condoms. Ms. Smith wasn't having any of that, and her rebuttal was instant. So like a middle-of-the-road rom-com script, Mr. Williams tried again. He swore that Ms. Smith had a habit of taking his condoms to the bathroom and doing something to them.
What I do know is she used to take my condoms off to the bathroom, and whatever she did in the bathroom with that condom, because I used to lay there.
Oh my God.
She'd take my condom off to the bathroom. I'll take care of that for you. I'll take care of that for you. You never said that.
What I'm gonna take care of? I'm gonna put it on you too?
No, you gonna put it in a...
Clutching at straws, Mr. Williams started babbling. He nearly dug his own grave when he mentioned that he was from a rich family. Apparently, he had enough money to pay child support, but chose not to. But before he could self-sabotage any further, Judge Lake called in Clarissa. Let the drama ensue.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We've been here discussing the issues regarding your paternity. Is Mr. Williams the person you were always told was your biological father?
Yes.
You never were told anyone else could be your father?
No.
Do you remember him being in your life when you were growing up?
When I was 5, he called me. That's all I remember.
Just when you were 5?
Yes.
But since then, you don't remember anything?
No.
You have not seen him?
No.
No birthdays?
No.
Father's Day?
No.
Holiday?
No.
Nothing?
No.
By the time that was probably happening, it's probably when that child support started hitting me. Because she would get packages every holiday, every Christmas, every birthday she would get them.
Do you remember receiving gifts from your father?
Never.
Never?
We never done that.
Yeah, I did.
But he did collect calls.
Collect calls?
Yes, you did.
Oh my goodness, stop.
And I accepted them.
Stop.
Because you wanted your daughter?
Definitely, and I still do.
You just want her to know her father?
Yes, ma'am, because he is missing out on so much. She made her own music, her own game video. She's a 3.9.
Clarissa is an overachiever. And after hearing about all of her many accomplishments, you could tell that feeling of regret was creeping up on Mr. Williams. After her heartfelt testimony and plight to Mr. Williams, it was time for the main event. Has Mr. Williams been an absentee father, or has he been the victim of a 20-year-old scam?
In the case of Williams versus Smith, when it comes to 22-year-old Clarissa Williams, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Williams, you are her father.
Told you.
Ah, young love. So innocent, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying. Mr. Andrews, alongside his mother, accused Miss Corbett of paternity fraud. This one is straight out of a movie. Brace yourself, the drama is heavy in this one.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Harrington versus Day.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Good day. Mr. Harrington, you claim you are not the father of Miss Day's 1-month-old daughter, Nalani Day, and want her to stop pinning her baby on you. you say your sexual relationship with the defendant ended before she got pregnant. Ms. Day, you say you would never attempt to pin a baby on a man without being sure he is the father.
So the mama's boy might have bitten off more than he could chew with Miss Corbett. After an extended situationship with Mr. Andrews, Miss Corbett got pregnant and gave birth to a son, who, if you would believe it, shares a name with the plaintiff. But according to Mr. Andrews, Miss Corbett did the unthinkable. She forged Mr. Andrews' signature on the baby's birth certificate.
If
what do you do?
He is not the father of my child, I am the Virgin Mary. There's no other possibilities. I have not been messing around with anybody else throughout the time that we were messing around.
So you are 100% positive Mr. Harrington is your child's biological father?
Yes, ma'am.
No doubt in your mind?
No doubt in my mind.
So talk to me about your relationship during the window of time Nalani was conceived.
We were...
Ooh, shots fired! So Miss Corbett is sure that Mr. Andrews signed the birth certificate. According to her, the only reason why he denies signing it is because Mr. Andrews' mother told him not to. She was leaning hard into the whole mother's boy argument, and to be fair, it was working? Well, having his mom stand right beside him really wasn't helping Mr. Andrews' case, was it?
My middle child, the other child that we have together, was having seizures. So she was in and out of the hospital. When we was in the hospital, we did it. So when we did...
So apparently, Mr. Andrews can speak for himself. Who would have thought? According to him, he had been a victim of Ms. Corbett's verbal abuse and controlling tendencies throughout their relationship. But Ms. Corbett had something to say about that.
She was pregnant?
An anonymous texter, I swear. We got into a conversation, I got the text right here.
Let me see those, please, Jerome.
Look.
Let me see.
You about to see?
Make it up?
I swear to God, why would I make that up? Like,
I don't know. I mean, you making up.
So you say you got a tip from an anonymous texter.
Anonymous texter.
A text comes through to your phone and it says,
baby mama.
How your baby mama?
Well, that blew up in his face. Words are being exchanged and things are getting hot in here. Only one thing, though, is this case between Ms. Corbett and Mr. Andrews or Ms. Corbett and Mama Andrews? The way things are going, Ma Andrews seems to be the one in charge. The enraged mom is going off on Ms. Corbett, accusing her of being the neighborhood, well, let's just call it the most charitable person in the neighborhood.
And guy number 2.
Yeah, that's how I found out. Then I asked my sister, I called her, whatever. I was like, so I heard you was hiding the pregnancy. She was like, Kayla didn't want me to tell you, and she was also saying that you the daddy. And I'm like, how? When she ain't talking to me. So I tried to call her. She not answering the phone.
He's trying to flip it around. I don't answer his call on a daily, on a regular basis. I don't answer the...
Ouch! That's got to hurt! So the mom and son duo are finally on the scoreboard. By the look of things, Ms. Corbett really got around in the neighborhood. Mr. Andrews and his mom clearly did their homework. And that's not all. They brought receipts.
Oh, that's why she be trying to hide my child from me too. Like, come on.
For him to say that I was trying to hide because I didn't pick up the phone or something like that.
But you never told me you was pregnant though.
I did tell you I was pregnant.
You told. I found out in January.
I found out in January too. That's when I went to go. Your Honor.
Lord have mercy.
When I found out that I was pregnant.
So all those missed periods
January.
All those missed periods
when I went to go and do my MRI.
You know you got 2 other kids.
For my brain study. So when I found out, I was already 4 months pregnant.
So at the time you found out you were pregnant, you all weren't together.
No. We was
and
not
so
together.
Did you immediately call him or did you tell his sister and neither one of you all told him and the anonymous tipper had to tell him?
I probably told his sister before.
The tables were turning. She was fired up when the hearing began, but Ms. Corbett was quickly silenced by the mountain of evidence brought up against her. The hot tea was getting spilled all over the court, and things were looking bad for Ms. Corbett. And just when we thought that was all we would hear about it, Mr. Andrews proved us wrong.
But you're saying there was no guy number 1 and guy number 2?
No, it wasn't. There is
a
guy number 1 and a guy number 2, but not a guy number 1 and a guy number 2 potentially to be my child's father.
But you believe you were pregnant
before you start talking to these guys?
I know I was pregnant before then.
I want to go to the birth of Nalani, and I want to understand, once he finds out you're pregnant, are you supportive of this pregnancy, Mr. Harrington? Are you at the doctor's appointments? Do you come for the birth?
Yes, I was there for the birth because I was saying to myself, okay, if I am a possible father, I don't want to have missed the birth. So I was keeping it real with myself.
Ms. Corbett was moving mad in the streets. But guess what? Can you prove it? Got any pictures? Videos? Until we see some solid evidence, it could all be hearsay, right? Exactly. And man, did Ms. Corbett lean on that.
Okay. All right. Wrong, because he told me that he just wanted to make sure that I knew that he was gonna always be there.
I am gonna always be there for my child, but you can't be pinning, you know what I'm saying? You trying to pin this child on me.
So you show.
Just when you thought it was over, bam! It comes back harder than an 80s trend. The mama's boy defense. Ms. Corbett had it locked and loaded. According to her, the only reason Mr. Andrews was coming up with all those accusations was because of his mom. And guess what? He didn't deny it.
My last name.
No, you did not.
I did say
said,
that.
are you gonna give her my last name?
And so hold on, let's get some order. So Miss Day, I want to understand this. You believe he accepted the baby at the hospital?
He did.
It was peak drama in the courtroom as Miss Corbett went at it for what seemed like the 100th time with Mr. Jackson and his mom. And with insults and allegations flying around like confetti, Judge Lake decided it was finally time to put an end to the madness. The results were in. And it was time to figure out if Mr. Andrew and his mom were right, or if the mama's boy had been a papa all along.
Harrington versus Day. When it comes to 1 month old Nalani Day, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Harrington, you are not the father.
What? Told you, bro.
Are you serious?
Told you. Can I Millie Rock?
No. No, you can't.
Sorry. My bad.
No, you can't. You know why? Because you have another child with her, so you're not gonna clown in here.
Okay.
Because that's acting a fool, and that's what I don't do.
But I told her. I told her that.
Some flings last more than our expectations. However, the irony is that even when they end, their ghosts come back to haunt us. And that is exactly what happened to Miss Luce. Her ex not only failed to step up, but ducked out childcare expenses worth $2,000.
Ms. Luce, you are suing the defendant for $2,716.86 back child care expenses for your son, Marley. Mr. Zuniga, you say you don't owe her a dime. Because you're not her son's father, you've petitioned the court for a lie detector test and a paternity test, but you claim to know who his real daddy is.
The plaintiff stated that though the baby daddy was present for the baby for the first 4 months, he suddenly disappeared from their lives, which left the mommy and baby stranded. And this made the judge ask Mr. Zuniga the reason for such abandonment.
First of all, Your Honor, I didn't feel like I abandoned him. At first, I never really thought the kid was mine. From day one, she seemed easy. We had sex the first day.
So, have you helped at all with Marley?
Well, yeah, I did. At first, I spent all my tax money. Last year, I got a substantial amount, and I spent every dime on him. I didn't spend one dime on myself.
The judge read all the expenses listed as proof and asked Mr. Zuniga about his doubts towards the plaintiff. And you won't believe the answer we got. FYI, his testimony was so dumb that even the judge had to correct him.
First of all, I never really knew her.
Okay, you slept with her, right?
I met her.
Oh, no, answer my
through a
question.
mutual friend.
You
Yeah.
slept with her, right?
Yes.
Did you use protection?
No.
Well, you know her now.
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
Well, I found out that she never really stayed in relationships long and that she liked to jump from guy to guy.
Then the judge asked the defendant about Mr. Zuniga's other kids, and it turns out he was somewhat sterile because the guy never had children in his previous relationships due to sports injuries. But the plaintiff cut him off, quickly defending herself against the doubts.
I was committed when we first started hanging out. I stayed at home with my godbrother, taking care of his kids until he got off work.
While I was at work, I asked her what she used to do. And she used to tell me she was going to her brother figure house and getting her moped fixed. That thing's probably still broke right now. To me, and she told me that while I was with her, she was cheating on me the whole time with her husband.
When asked about the allegations, the plaintiff admitted sleeping with a married man, but said there wasn't anything between her and their godbrother father, and she only helped with raising his kids.
I honestly believe it's only because he thinks he's sterile and that he can't have kids. I gave him no reason to feel as if I was cheating on him.
What about right after you left me? How you got with that one guy from the park. And then right after that, you started getting with the bouncer.
With a bouncer?
While you were with him.
No, I was only with two different people at separate times after I slept with him.
One-sided allegations were a dead end, so the judge asked the plaintiff about her witness, and to everyone's shock, she brought the defendant's mother to solidify her testimony. She claimed that her son resembled the kid and alleged the father cut her off to explain his mom's obsession with babies.
First of all, Your Honor, my mom, she's always wanted me to have kids. Once I got of age, I got older and started.
Oh my goodness, no, I didn't want him sleeping with nobody.
She told me herself that she was that age.
She didn't
to be a
even
grandmother.
speak to me after we found out I was
wouldn't even
pregnant
speak to
because she
her.
thought I was just a fling.
Because my son goes through women like toilet paper. I did not want to speak to her.
The judge asked the plaintiff about pregnancy, and she said that he was just present at the birth. Then the defendant said that he drove 3 hours to the hospital and signed the birth certificate, but later they lost it. So Mr. Zuniga's excitement about the birth led all of them into an argument.
He was throwing things around in the house. He was upset we couldn't leave right then and there to watch his son be born because his dad wasn't there. Were you not?
I was.
And you feel very emotional because
he went through it. He went through it without a dad, and he's gonna have the same thing happen.
The more I see him grow up, the less he looked like.
Because
he doesn't know you.
And he doesn't have to look like you. You don't look like me anymore. You grew up, but I knew you came from me.
However, the baby daddy still couldn't shake off his doubts, so the judge decided to reveal the outcome of the lie detector test about her sexual relationship with that married man during the conception dates, which the plaintiff had denied, and the judge read the results.
if you ever had sexual relations with any other man while dating Pedro, which is Mr. Zuniga, you said no. The lie detector determined deception indicated.
This time, nobody believed that she lied, but she did it. So after the lie detector results, the judge moved the case forward and permitted them a paternity test to end this game. She asked their final thoughts before the results, but instead of hoping, they just argued.
You were there from the start. You started out being a good dad, then you vanished. You abandoned your own kid.
I did more than anybody would have done regarding
You're acting
the
just
fact
like
that
your dad
she
when you
lied.
promised.
Mom, why are you so upset?
Because I went through this. I was her. This little boy didn't ask to be here.
The case seemed very simple from its beginning, with the baby denial, but the lies of the plaintiff and the double-faced behavior of the defendant made things complicated. So the judge was ready to read the results.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Zuniga, you are his father.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. You need to tell your son.
But look at him.
Look at him. Maybe that's yours.
But you lied.
Yes, I made
All right,
a
we're
lie
getting over
compared
that.
to
We're getting
whatever
over
test
that.
says it. He is your son. Say you're sorry.
But the test just proves that I was right.
A young, beautiful, but not entirely innocent girl brought the lawsuit to persuade Mr. McKinley, the defendant, that he was the father of her son. She also claimed that his reluctance to admit paternity was due to his petty wife. On the other hand, the supposed father asserted that Miss Thompson shouldn't bother his married life anymore.
Thompson, you are summoning Mr. McKinley to court to prove to him and his wife that he fathered your 6-month-old son, Legend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. McKinley, you admit that Miss Thompson was an affair gone wrong. Miss Thompson needs to leave you and your wife of 17 years alone and find her baby's father. Is that correct?
The plaintiff said they connected on Facebook, and he was always following up on her activities on social media and called him a thirsty stalker and said that she ended up going out with him by choice.
So I chose him to go out with. I dated him. We had rap in common because I rap, you know, when I write music, I sing. I took him to the studio. We spit some bars. Make a long story short, we ended up dating, having sexual encounters. And we had messed around. I wasn't sober enough to make the right decisions. That's a lie. So I took advantage of that. That's a lie.
After the loud arguments by both women, the judge asked Mr. McKinley to tell his side of the story. He said that he wanted to see the studio he worked in, and he denied her, but she kept pinning him about it. This accusation led to more arguments and laughter.
So out of the blue, she just sends you a message and says, when are you gonna take me to the studio?
Yeah, to the
and you don't know who this girl is.
Nah, I just knew she was one of my friends on Facebook. I could have been a plot she skinned on from day one.
He worked at the Goodwill. Why would I want him? He was in the donation thing before he got fired. Why would I want him? And he's 2 decades older than me.
Well, why did you sleep with him if he was this broke? Nevertheless, when the defendant's wife was questioned by the judge about the relationship, she revealed that when she discovered them in a home, the plaintiff was lying under the covers. Ms. Thompson, though, clarified the circumstance.
One of the girls up there told me that my husband have a young girl in the room. So I went over myself, knocked on the door. So he opened the door. I went in there. She laying in the bed, under the cover.
Whose house was this?
I took the cover off her head, and I'm like asking him, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, we doing music. Sit down." I'm like, "No, I won't sit down."
You doing music in the bed under the cover?
The plaintiff continued her statement, saying that he took her to the hospital, and she shared that there could be another possible father who got him upset. Ms. Thompson carried on explaining how much he still cared for her after the pregnancy news.
I'm gonna own up to my crap. So I said, okay, it's a chance that this might not be your child.
All right.
He was upset. He got in his feelings. This man is lying. Look at me. He was all up in my face. He spent money on me. He let me drive his car, and he didn't have no money for me. At the same time, I had fun enjoying his company.
So you went all
and I ain't have to spend no money.
A man with no
but
money?
he loves this child, and I know he does.
Ms. Thompson confirmed that the defendant was the father of the baby because of many resembling features, and showed proof of stacked toes to the judge. Further, she boldly confronted him to deny that proof.
I called him in the hospital on the second day because I looked at my child and I said, dang, man, I'm gonna own up to that. I did not want him to be the father, but my child sure do got a lot of features. This evidence shows that he has a stacked toe. I asked Terrell about my son. I told him about it. Oh, yeah, that's me. So if that ain't your baby, take your shoe off. Let me see your toe.
You wanna see my
Yeah,
toe?
let me see. Take them off. You got on, did you put on socks today?
Both parties here are very strong with their proof games. Now the picture with the anonymous man sparked some fishy behavior from the plaintiff, and she defended herself by exposing the petty actions of his wife.
So how do you think they got this text if it didn't come from you?
This woman made a fake page. I have my page private. All of this that they doing is to make me look bad, but I'm really upset because I could care less if he in his life or not. I just want to know who the father is so I can get the help that I need because I'm struggling with my child. If you want to meet her, that's fine, but she don't got to tag along your coattail just to go see your child.
After lots of arguments, accusations, and lies, the judge was tired of listening to anything else. Moreover, Ms. Thompson was a strong woman, and today's outcome was very important for her to settle the baby's future. So she decided to read the results to calm the plaintiff and finish this war of foolishness.
It has been determined by this court, Mr. McKinley, you are the father.
A relationship under the pillars of infidelity and mistrust can't last long. But this woman sought to save her relationship with Mr. White by establishing the paternity of her daughter. But the defendant insisted that she was constantly lying to him and that the consequences would force him to leave their relationship.
All right, now, Mr. Wright, you say that Ms. Kane has repeatedly lied to you, and you have every reason to doubt the paternity of 1-year-old Ariana. That if the results of today's paternity test prove you are not the biological father, you plan to walk out of this courtroom and have nothing to do with Ms. Kane again.
The plaintiff said when they first started talking, she was hanging out with her ex, and upon clarification, she said she wasn't sleeping with the ex. But Mr. White cut her off, saying the real story was different.
I want to know why there's so much mistrust.
He called me to have me tow her car.
The ex did.
Told me it was his girlfriend. I went and got her car, towed her over to her house, you know, because she's my boy's girl. I was talking to her, told her what was wrong with the car.
So her ex is your friend?
Yeah, told me if I...
Now we're getting places.
Well, we were friends. We were friends.
The defendant recalled the day when the plaintiff went out with her ex, a friend and her ex's buddy, and the club's doorman informed him that the plaintiff was there on a double date. Ms. Kane then clarified what had happened.
One of my friends, she asked me to go with her to meet this guy, and my ex was there too.
Did you tell your boy, hey, I'm dating now?
She didn't want him to know that me and her were seeing each
Or
other.
is that because you were still sleeping with the ex?
No, my ex did not believe that him and I hooked up.
Did he not believe it because that was his boy and he didn't think his boy would sleep with you?
I don't know. He never really got into all that.
Now the plaintiff said that Mr. White's ex confronted her through Facebook and told her that they slept together. But the defendant argued that it happened after his breakup with Ms. Kane, and the judge praised their exciting foursome and asked about pregnancy reaction.
And now, Ms. Kane, do you believe he was sleeping with his ex too?
Yes, I do, because she would get a hold of me off of Facebook and tell me that they're sleeping together.
That's not true. Me and her have broke up, and yes, I've done stuff with my ex. When we've been broke up.
It wasn't just when we were broken up.
Okay, you all see each other, but you also have relationships with your exes.
He fully played his inspector game perfectly. The plaintiff went on to say that she repeatedly told him directly in his face during a custody dispute that he wasn't the baby's father.
So, Ms. Kane, while you're pregnant, you tell him this may not be your child. This isn't your child.
Out of anger.
Out
Yes,
of
I did.
anger.
Yes.
So it was only out of anger because in your mind there's absolutely no other possibility.
Correct.
So he's a control freak and she avenges him. Classic battle. The plaintiff then explained that any comments she made regarding the baby's paternity were made out of rage. However, the accusation was eager and eventually revealed more messy behaviors by Miss Kane.
Me, her, and her friend had a threesome. She goes over to her friend's house to hang out with her friend and her friend's boyfriend. They're drinking. Her friend somehow gets her shirt off, her bra off, her pants halfway down.
No, it was not
all
around
this.
no.
And then she tells me she got uncomfortable, so she got everything back on and left. According to her friend, they had a threesome.
No.
And she's lying to me about that.
The judge was done with the dirt of their mess and their complaints. She further asked him about his role at the birth, and he replied that he supported the baby since birth, but didn't sign the birth certificate and shared his concerns.
I didn't sign the birth
Jerome,
certificate
let me
because
see that.
I told her before, I'm not signing the birth certificate because I have a doubt.
Yep, no father's name recorded.
You know, and then now she throws that up in my face. If she turns out to be mine, she's gonna keep that short when she's older that I
Who
didn't
said
sign.
that? He's the one that thinks that I'm gonna keep her and throw it up in her face, saying that he was a bad dad, he didn't want nothing to do with her, and all this other stuff. That's the reason why I keep it.
Their arguments were useless now, and the judge asked them to stop making everyone a fool. The defendant then admitted in court that he was confused about his likeness to the kid when she questioned him about it.
When you look at Ariana, do you see yourself? Do you feel like she looks like you?
You know, I think she looks like my family. But the problem is her family will sit there and say how much she looks like her other two girls, but then a week later say how much those girls look like their dad. That they don't look nothing like her. So that tells me that she looks like
So you're
the
reading
other
in
father,
between
too.
the lines,
Right.
and you're not in the sentence.
Right.
These two idiots looking desperately for paternity had their actions mess up their relationship and the baby's life. In this dirtiness, the judge moved on to reveal the results and hoped something could save their future.
In the case of Kane v. Wright, pertaining to 1-year-old Ariana Wright, it has been determined, Mr. Wright, you are Ariana's father.
Two men and a woman found themselves entangled in a 3-decade-old mystery. Mr. Tillman and Mr. Johnson are both vying for the title of dad, all thanks to their shared connection with the baby mama. Now the million-dollar question was who was the biological father amongst them? Well, we're gonna get to the bottom of that.
Was it
It
committed?
started out more like friendship, more so than a committed relationship. But as time grew on and I discovered that she was dealing with other people than myself, so that's when I kind of strayed away.
So you discovered she was also in a relationship with Mr. Johnson.
I didn't necessarily know that they were in a relationship, but I knew that she was dealing with somebody else other than myself.
We have a love triangle on our hands here, people. Nothing new. However, this love triangle was more tangled than a plate of spaghetti. Oh yeah, the baby mama was playing them both, and quite cheekily may I add. And these guys didn't like being played like a fiddle. More so the joyous news of the baby.
She showed up at my door, she was pregnant, you know, I still jokingly way asked her, you know, what happened to her, and so she told me she was pregnant, it was mine.
She told me she was pregnant, and I asked her, was it from that guy? And she said, yeah, I believe so.
Time to make this plot thick, as the defendant and plaintiff were now swapping stories of their encounters with the baby mama. And during such an encounter, it was revealed the mommy had a fun time with both these guys on the same day. Wow, that's one way to mess up the timelines for sure.
You had sex with her that morning, around about
sex
12
with who?
o'clock. With Cece. And
That's Miss Tillman, mother.
Yes, that's her
Okay.
mother. She told me she had sex with you that around about 12 o'clock. And I had stopped by there around about 3 something, and me and her had sex.
I don't remember.
Well, those fun times produce a very real baby. Although both contenders were up for the role of fatherhood initially, it seemed Mr. Tillman pulled a no-show after some time. So not cool. However, in his defense, he claimed he did come to visit his daughter, but the defendant wasn't buying that one bit.
Who was in her life after that? Did you have a relationship with her?
For as I knew, he was gone.
Did you have a relationship to
Yes,
see
I
the baby?
did, Your Honor. I used to come and get my daughter and take her with me on the weekends, and anything she needed, I did.
Where did you come and get her from?
Y'all just took my daughter.
Where did you come and get her from?
Well, looky here. It appeared not only Mr. Johnson didn't believe a word of the plaintiff, but so did Miss Annetta. Uh-oh! Guess Mr. Tillman had been caught in a lie. But he was still adamant that he did visit, and these guys were the ones who disappeared on him. Moving on, we got to see what the daughter thought of the one who raised her.
Only person I've ever had come pick me up and take me out on the weekends was Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson has always been there for me. So I'm really confused. I don't know. And
baby, after your mother and him sent you to Georgia, I lost contact with you.
But you know my name. You know my
I came back
birthday.
several times trying to find you.
It was certainly not a good day for the dear old plaintiff. The man was being caught in bold lies one after another. He had other plans on the day of the birth, and still he had the gall to maintain his innocence. Then Miss Annetta's birth certificate came up, with a blank space for the father's name, unsurprisingly. And boy, was that a stark reminder of the mystery surrounding her paternity.
How did I get my name?
I signed for you at the hospital after you were born.
This is my birth
I have the
certificate.
original birth certificate.
And it doesn't have.
Let me see that, Jerome. Hand me that.
You left.
Cece got mad at me because she found out I was going to New York to get married, and that's why I think you and her sent my daughter away out of my life. It's not my fault.
What do you mean it's not
It's
your
not
fault?
my
And so the daughter finally blew up on the supposed baby daddy. Mr. Tillman was in for it now. She poured her heart out, and he still tooled the same tune that they disappeared. Well, drama level? Up to 100.
No, the reason I wasn't in your life, baby, because they sent you away.
I don't care about what they did.
well,
You are
I-
a grown man.
I-
You have your own. You
That's right.
have did it. You shouldn't have stopped. You knew I was out there. Did you not know I was out there?
Yes, I knew you was out there, and I tried my best to find you.
Girlfriend to the rescue. Yup, Mr. Tillman still had at least one person in his corner. His girlfriend came up to the podium to stand with him in support. Oh, she did a lot more than just that. She also shared his side of the story. Could this get any more complicated, man?
He brings out her birth certificate, said I ain't seen her in all these years. This man's almost come to tears because he hasn't seen her in over 30 years. They've taken her from him.
What I'm saying, what I don't get, you saying that you didn't know where she was.
I didn't.
But yet you said that you came.
This decades-old paternity mystery had gone on long enough. The results were in, and were about to be revealed. Let's see if the daughter gets what she was hoping for, or if fate has other plans.
Mr. Tillman, you are her father.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
It's all right.
Yeah, baby, I'm sorry, but it was not my fault. No matter how much you're trying to blame me, they took you away from me.
A paternity mystery that has been simmering for 34 years. Yup. Miss Krieger claimed Mr. Dittmer's denial of parenthood was about as believable as the Loch Ness Monster. He, on the other hand, insisted he got hoodwinked into paying child support, and now he wanted payback.
Her best friend's folks told me she was messing around with this guy about the time that Jamie was conceived. So yes, she was messing around.
That's a lie.
No, it's not.
Now, this is unfortunate, Miss Krieger, Jamie, that you have to hear any of this.
From what I hear, my mom's admitted it was, but it was the sister before me.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn, because we're in for a wild ride. The baby mama immediately went into picture evidence, but Mr. Lee wasn't falling for that. Furthermore, he accused the baby mama, albeit a bit boldly, that she had been tricking him all his life. Uh-oh, trouble? Nope, much more like disaster in paradise.
Everybody, when there's babies born, compare and say how much they look like me on my dad's side of the family also. How could they look like me if I have a different dad, and that's from my dad's side of the family?
The older two children have blue eyes and blonde hair. Jamie's always had darker hair with a hazel or brown.
And you never claimed them or paid child support on them. Why?
Oh, the doubts and reservations hovering over Miss Krieger's pregnancy. These guys shared 2 more children, and yet Mr. Dittmer, our doubtful dad, was feeling as betrayed as Jon Snow in Game of Thrones.
She's the one that looks different than the older children. The older children have blonde hair, blue eyes. Jamie has dark hair, hazel or brown eyes. The older children are more athletic. Well, why would she trick me into paying child support like that, Your Honor? I mean, I wasn't even at the hospital when Jamie was born.
Moving on, we got to know the side of the daughter as to when she got to know about this all. And before the poor girl could finish, there went Mr. Lee interjecting again. He claimed Miss Lee switched her relationship status from committed to it's complicated with a side of other people. So much so as accusing the baby mama of going off the pill with a dash of born-again virgin criticism. Yikes!
He kept saying that I would kidnap the kids, that she'd never see them again. It took me 2 years to get visitation, then they gave me supervised
No,
visitation.
it was your drinking, like you said earlier. I wasn't gonna let my little children go with you drunk and have you driving with them drunk.
If you didn't think Miss Krieger was your biological child, why the visits?
Let the he said, she said battle commence. Both these guys were accusing each other of infidelity and whatnot, and some of it was true though. Still, the baby daddy maintained he paid child support, and it wasn't about the money.
I've got the final payment right here. I'd like to present it to the court. I ended up talking to the attorney for the friend of the court, and I settled with him. They said I owed $13,000 at that time, and he said only $3,000 was owed in child support, that the rest of it was administrative fees, interest, and surcharges.
Yes.
Up next, we got to see the daughter accepting some of the things the supposed baby daddy did for her. However, the fella did pull some evil moves on her and her children, and those involved telling people he wasn't her father and their grandpa. Seriously, man?
He's helped me some, but he's also griped the whole way through. He told my daughter's dad that I wasn't his, and I had to hear about it, which is pretty.
No, I never told her.
I
happened?
told my middle child's dad, you guys were drinking, yes, but still.
About time the daughter poured out everything that had been bottled up inside her all these years, and she most definitely did. She shared how her life had been with the defendant behaving like that. And man, did that make the baby daddy a heartless jerk.
Well, I don't even know if I'm yours, but I just gave you $20 to help you buy some diapers. And so it got to the point where, why ask him for help? I mean, he's just got it in the back of his mind. I'm not his kid. It makes me feel worthless, and like, it's a lot of emotional abuse, and that's what sticks with you, and that's what stays.
The moment of truth, folks. It was here. And when I say we were ready for it, you better believe me, because this indeed was a wild ride stuffed with emotions. Miss Jamie was here for some much needed answers, and Judge Lake had them for her. Here we go.
You are her father.
Oh. I never had any doubts. It's just been dealing with all this.
And Mr. Dittmer?
I feel kind of relieved, Your Honor. I'm glad that she is, but her mother put such a doubt in my mind.
Mr. Alexander was suing to remove his name from his alleged 4-month-old daughter's birth certificate, claiming there was no way he was the dad. On the flip side, Miss Stewart also sued the baby daddy for childcare expenses and swore Mr. Alexander was the biological father. It's gonna be a long battle, and neither seems to want to back down.
You are suing your ex-girlfriend for $40 for the cost of the administration fee to legally remove your name from her 4-month-old daughter, Jariah's birth certificate, because there is absolutely no way you are her biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's rewind the tape to when these two lovebirds were on the rocks. After spotting some shady texts and calls from a mysterious Dexter on the baby mama's phone, the man's suspicions went through the roof, and that was just the start. But instead of confronting her, he let his doubts simmer. Then came a drunken bowling night when Miss Stewart left him with the kids and vanished till the wee hours. Now, that doesn't sound so good.
I seen text messages and several phone calls from this guy named Dexter. She wouldn't answer the phone when I was in the room. I guess she would wait until maybe I left or whatever, so that's kind of a suspicion for me.
But you never questioned her about it?
Yeah, I asked her about it, and she told me, like, don't worry about it, like, basically, like, it's none of my business.
Time to dive headfirst into the pregnancy drama. Miss Stewart ended up dropping the pregnancy bomb on the defendant, but the timing was sketchy. These guys had been on a break for 3 months, and there had been no hanky-panky. But that's not what Miss Stewart believed, and she took matters into her own hands then.
I didn't tell him because we were rocky at that time. It wasn't a solid foundation, so I didn't want to make it even worse by bringing a baby into the situation.
I did have doubt because when she told me she was pregnant, we were actually on a 3-month break and we got back together like 2 months after that, and then that's when she told me she was pregnant.
Miss Stewart not only played detective, she also brought the evidence along with her to the court. Now that's what I'm talking about. However, that evidence didn't paint the baby daddy in good colors. Oh, he was up to no good at all.
The first one at the bottom, the 7:08 p.m., that is when he was gone. He told me that he was at his aunt's house, and obviously you can see there he's talking to a girl
So
right there.
at 7:08 p.m., his phone got a text from a number that's not yours that says, "I'm looking forward to tonight."
Yes.
Now, where does this mysterious Dexter come into this mix? The defendant wanted Mr. Alexander to feel exactly the way she did, and she concocted a plan with the help of her best friend. Enter Dexter.
I came up with a plan with my best friend. I changed her name in my phone to Dexter, and I was texting her pretending I was talking to a dude just so that he would think I was cheating because he cheated.
I've seen the text message about can I come see you? How you doing?
Yeah, it was
like that's her man when I'm supposed to be her man.
Mr. Alexander's sister came up next as his witness, and though she claimed to have been friends with the defendant for a long time, she sided with her brother on this one. She spilled the beans about secret breakup plans and hanging out with other guys, a tit-for-tat game that had been tearing this relationship apart.
Miss Stewart and I have been friends for over 15 years. We've always talked and told each other secrets about, having backup plans as far as if you have a boyfriend, keeping one on the side for when your boyfriend makes you mad, you can, just go talk to other guys or whatever. So as far as this guy goes, it's not a hoax. They actually hang out all the time.
No, that's false.
Next up, the baby mama shared how the plaintiff had taken no part in the pregnancy journey. She had been doing it all on her own with no help from him. So much so, the baby daddy ended up calling the beautiful baby something. Uh-oh, that's not gonna fly in this court, man.
Out of all of my doctor's appointments, he's only came to the finding out the gender, and then the last 2, I've gone to all of them by myself.
And this hurts you so much because you thought he would be there?
Yeah, and she doesn't deserve that. Look at her. She's so cute. Like, why would you deny her? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Moving on, Miss Stewart presented some more evidence of the baby daddy's bad attitude and plain spiteful behavior towards the child. And the guy showed no remorse at all over this. Check out the nerve of this baby daddy.
First you say, "I need a favor. You're gonna be busy Sunday or Monday." And then he says, "I don't know, it depends." And then you say, "Okay, well, I need you to watch the kids while I get my hair done." He says, "I'll watch Jacoby, but Jariah, hell nah, find her daddy."
Time to take the baby mama and the baby out of their misery. They wanted the paternity doubt to be resolved once and for all. Will the results be able to shut the baby up or not? We'll see about that.
Mr. Alexander, you are her father.
I'm just happy at the end that the results came back like I said that they would.